I'm Roshni Srinivasan, part of the team at Project Ara Google ATAP, and I'm super excited to be rolling out the product. Okay, so far, you've heard about a lot of technical details about our project and how we've gone through several milestones and the progress we've made. Paul also mentioned Puerto Rico. I'd like to start by giving you the big picture, tell you a little bit more about the questions we're trying to answer, what we're trying to do, and how we plan to get there. Okay, so we've done a lot of research on the ground in Puerto Rico, trying to understand the market, trying to figure out, what it's like. I'd like to walk you through some of the questions we're grappling with, and what we're trying to do is we're hoping to collect a lot of data through the market pilot and answer those questions. First off, we really need to understand how customers engage with Ara. What appeals to them? We really need to learn about usage patterns, creative new applications that emerge. Is there something missing, something they don't like? Ara is fundamentally a modular platform, and we really need to understand how users value that whole aspect about functional and aesthetic customization. It's a big part of what we want to learn. In many examples that we've studied from earlier research, you'll see them on the right, we found that as the degree of customization and self-expression starts to grow, people are actually willing to pay more. But remember that paradox of choice that Paul started off with when he talked about the market pilot. Consumers just love options, right? But when it comes to making a decision, it's actually pretty difficult, almost stressful. And it doesn't end with just making a choice. They actually feel remorse sometimes after making that choice. So we refer to this whole thing as the paradox of choice. Think modules, think endos, think shells. We really want to learn how we can help customers navigate all the different choices Ara presents to them. Large combinations of modules are actually just as frustrating as a very limited set. How do consumers and users configure their Ara phones? Was the process intuitive? Was it engaging? Was it confusing, or just simply overwhelming? Are there ways that we can actually prevent decision paralysis? So to understand pricing, we know that users will try to use it, but will they pay for it? We've looked to understand pricings. We've worked with a group at MIT at the Strategic Engineering, and we've actually tried to build models for the two-sided marketplace to understand the dynamics of it. And this model, this agent-based model that they've constructed, is actually sensitive. It's sensitive to the parameters that go into it. The number of developers, the number of users, all in the context of module availability, and they're super sensitive to pricing. The research results are consistent with our early hypotheses. For two-sided marketplaces in the context of hardware platforms, it's early, and we really need to refine these models with some more data that we get from the market pilot. And in addition to this research, we're also thinking about how are we going to price endos? How are we going to price modules? Do we actually need to construct curated bundles, and how do we price them? How do we incentivize early adopters and get them to keep coming back? Ara completely redefines the concept of refresh cycles for a device. What we do to subsidize or monetize transactions will be a big part of what we learn through the market pilot. Okay, so now this is a still from December of 2013, right? This is a video that Kenza Lee in Vietnam created. It's really an endearing story. It's boy meets girl, and keep watching, because they actually swap modules. Module sharing and swapping is something that Ara enthusiasts have envisioned very early on in the process. We've speculated the emergence of a secondary market through this, right? Users wanting to swap, wanting to share, or even resell modules. Why would they do that? They might want to explore new options. They might want to upgrade functionality. They might even want to conserve their electronic footprint. For developers and marketplace alike, This is very similar to the app ecosystem, right? Where you want to think beyond the first download. You want to go beyond that. You want to have users maintaining and sustaining their interest, and you want to build communities around it. We've started working a lot on the logistics, getting modules from you guys, everything that you make, to the hands of consumers. Systems are being integrated on the back end to manage logistics and the flow of information between entities involved. We're also designing these logistics processes to scale when we go global. But what could we do to actually improve the efficiencies of these processes, and how can we improve on cost, supply chain logistics? For instance, what can we change in the forward or reverse logistics processes and simplify to make it a lot easier for consumers? The other thing we want to know is, how can the Ara the customer support team actually help with troubleshooting, not just for consumers, but also for module developers to get to the bottom of issues that you see very quickly. So that's what we want to do around the fulfillment chain. Brand and marketing. That's a big one. The Ara brand principles are based on interaction, and how we market Ara is truly influenced by the different perspectives that users bring to the creative canvas. To some, part of it is a phone. A phone could be part of it. Would you consider Ara a platform or a completely new device? Is it really a phone, or is it an on-device packet switch network? Would you highlight the brand that your module brings to the table, or the Ara brand? What is the relationship between them? These questions are clearly not simple, and we're instrumenting our consumer-facing experiences to gather all the data we need to answer them. Okay, now for the execution piece. You might ask, what's it going to take to get modules that you make into the hands of consumers in Puerto Rico? You could develop a module from anywhere in the world, and we need to find a way to ship them to Puerto Rico. We also need a way to receive them, stock them, maintain inventory, warehouse, not just of modules. There's endos, there's undecorated shells. This is a lot that's happening with logistics. And with every order that's placed, we need to think further. How do we pick combinations of modules and endos, package them together? Maybe there's even a customer that wants a custom image on a shell. So we need to print them with the dye sublimation equipment that we talked about earlier. And all of this needs to be custom packaged. Every order that needs to come in needs to be delivered to customers in Puerto Rico. And the island's not big. You can get from one place to another in 4 hours. So we want to really get there within the day. That's where our development partner, Ingram, comes in. And their local facility in Humacao is going to help us work through all these issues with forward and reverse logistics. Okay, payments. You know, we were on the ground in Puerto Rico, and one really interesting thing there was that the Puerto Rican customer is as familiar with ATH as they are with ATM the rest of the world. So the 79% of Puerto Rico's banked population, 92.1% of them use the ATH card. We want Puerto Rican customers to be able to use ATH to make payments when they purchase Ara. And that's what's going to be integrated on our marketplace backend. This is in addition to traditional payment systems. And now for the flow of money. How will you get paid for module purchases? The marketplace will handle payment disbursements and order reconciliation, and you'll be kept completely informed through the developer console. When it comes to resolving issues for customers, during the market pilot, we want to keep this as easy and as simple as possible. We want customers to reach our Tier 1 customer support partner on the front end, and they could use email, chat, or simply a phone call to resolve an issue. They can choose to communicate either in English or in Spanish. We realize that every configuration is different, and troubleshooting is not going to be easy. But we also want to make that process simple when it comes to the consumer. So rather than trying to debug every issue with a configuration, we might just replace a module and make our customer care responsive and quick. Customers can also choose to drop off modules. They can drop it off at our retail food trucks. Local same-day shipping will make that replacement process quick and responsive again. And finally, what are we looking at in terms of troubleshooting for module developers? We are going to collect that data. We'll work with consumers and customers that call us and talk to us, get as much information as we can so that you can then use that information to analyze the problem and troubleshoot it. And Ingram will handle the logistics process to ship these defective and offending modules back to you. Okay, so we talked about the movement of modules, and now I want to talk a little bit about the flow of data. We want to provide a unified interface for customers to explore our module configurations, order modules and endos and potentially custom decorated shells. And that's done through the configurator app. We also need to handle what I just talked about, payments, order processing. We want to be able to track and order end to end. And our Ara Marketplace backend systems are going to be integrated with payment infrastructure and also the Ingram logistics structure so that you can actually have visibility into all these transactions and the information that it brings together. Finally, we want you as module developers to be able to track inventory, get analytics, get ideas and information around what's happening with sales. And the developer console in the Ara Marketplace is where you would go to get all of that information. Thank you.